iHeart, get ready. Fantasy football is here. Welcome to the Scout Fantasy Show. ScoutFantasy.com is home to the Fantasy Football World Championships and the best players in the world. Real money winners giving their secrets to help you win. Now exclusively on iHeart. This is the Scout Fantasy Show with your host, the one, the only, Dr. Roto.
It's Dr. Roto. Get out the insurance cards. Get out the copay. The office is open, my friends. Let's take a look at week 4. We only have one game to go, a really good game, by the way, between the Giants and the Vikings. But let's take a look at what we saw on the box scores yesterday to help you win a fantasy championship. Indianapolis and Jacksonville. Let's start with that one. That game was way early in the morning. Could you imagine if you lived on the West Coast? People watching that bad boy at 6:30 a.m. And I don't know if I could stomach that early. I mean, this was one of the worst played games I have seen in a long time. Blake Bortles, 207 yards and 2 touchdowns. And let me tell you something, that Allen Hurns touchdown was a joke. It was a complete and utter joke. It was the worst tackling I've ever seen. You know Chuck Pagano? His name should be Pagano because that guy needs to be fired. Ryan Griggs and this whole Colts staff needs to be gone. They don't know what they're doing out there. Their offensive line is in shambles. Their defense stinks. They scored a touchdown on a freak play by Philip Dorsett. Really, this Colts team is bad. And I'm sorry to say that because I have some good friends who live in Indianapolis, but it's not pretty right now. But Blake Bortles had 2 touchdowns, one to Robinson and one to Hurns. And after that, TJ Yeldon did a little something, but nobody really did anything. It was Jacksonville's defense that played well. But I mean, who are we kidding? I don't think it's that the Jacksonville defense is so good. I think it's that the Colts offensive line is so bad. And then the worst part was Frank Gore, who was dominating this game. 68 yards rushing, 1 touchdown, 5 receptions. At the end of the game, it was a Josh Ferguson love fest. Now, I like Josh Ferguson as much as the next guy, but are you kidding me with 10 targets? And where is Jack Doyle? This is a guy that Andrew Luck has loved throwing to. I mean, he gets 1 target. What is Chudzinski thinking? I mean, this Colt team is a mess right now, and I don't even know if Chuck Pagano makes it through week 8, let alone makes it through the season. That was an aberration. All right, the Houston Texans against the Tennessee Titans. The Texans win 27-20. And this game was just another game that, to me, is missing a lot. Marcus Mariota, 13 for 29, 202 yards and no touchdowns. You know, Carson Wentz comes in. He looks good. Paxton Lynch looks good. Mariota looks terrible. I mean, his ball looks terrible. And I liked Mariota coming into the league with Jameis Winston, but Jameis Winston looks like he gets better and better. Even when he makes mistakes, they're not bad mistakes. Mariota just looks like he's lost out there half the time. Then they've got this great running game with DeMarco Murray, which is the only thing that salvages the Titans. But, I mean, look at this box score. Rashard Matthews, 2 receptions. Walker, 2. Johnson, 3. DeMarco Murray, 2. Sharp, 2. I mean, when you're going to Andre Johnson in clutch situations, what does this tell you about your team? It tells you that your team stinks. Andre Johnson's done. I need more Kendall Wright. I need more Sharp. I need more Walker. I don't need more Andre Johnson. For the Houston Texans, please, somebody tell me how DeAndre Hopkins goes 1 for 4. I mean, I'm playing in a league yesterday, and I think I'm in like 18 or 20 leagues. I haven't really counted. Rather, I'm an owner or a part owner. And I mean, I have Hopkins and Golden Tate on the same team. Golden Tate had 1 reception for 1 yard, and Hopkins had 1 reception for 4 yards. Are you kidding me? 2.5 points for 2 players like that? Unreal. You've got to find him the football. Now, you're going to Lamar Miller, who's great, and you're going to Will Fuller, who's really turned out to be the Rookie of the Year. I mean, also had a punt return for a touchdown. But you've got to do better than with DeAndre Hopkins, who's the best player on your team. He's got to get the football. He's got to get the football. Now, look, if you own DeAndre Hopkins, if you own him, what do you think you're going to do? You think you're going to cut him? No. Now, next week, he's got Minnesota. Problems. Week 6, he's got Indianapolis. That's good. Then he's got Denver. That's a problem. Then he's got Detroit. That's good. And then in the second half of the year, Jacksonville, Oakland, San Diego, Green Bay, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Cincinnati. DeAndre Hopkins should have a good second half of the year. So I think now if you could trade for him, it would be a great time to make a trade for him because I think his owner is going to be upset, especially Minnesota is going to be a disaster next week. I think you can get him at a low next week. I would try to make that trade because if you can make it to the playoffs, I like what he can do for you. I really can. All right. Washington against Cleveland. Kirk Cousins, only 183 yards passing, but he had 3 touchdowns. Jordan Reed, 9 receptions, 73 yards, 2 touchdowns. Got to give credit to Scott Atkins, who liked him very much, as did I. Jamison Crowder, people were on him, but only 2 for 21. Now, Jamison Crowder's value is this. I think Jamison Crowder and Matt Jones are the inverse player. So here's what I mean. When the Redskins are winning, more Matt Jones, less Crowder. When the Redskins are losing, more Crowder, less Matt Jones. This was a Matt Jones game. It really was. It was a Matt Jones game against Cleveland, 31-20. Matt Jones, 22 carries, 117 yards and a touchdown. It was right in his wheelhouse. And retrospectively, when I'm looking at my FanDuel lineups and DraftKings lineups, Matt Jones should have been there. He should have been all over the place. I had to have known, and I don't know. I always look back on this and I go, why did I not do that? It just seems like an obvious play, and it is. Reed and Jones were the obvious plays yesterday. For Cleveland, Isaiah Crowell, I'll say the same thing about him. When the game flow is good, Crowell is a very good player. So at halftime, it was 17-all yesterday in this game, and that's right, Crowell's a big part of it. 15 carries, 112 yards, and a touchdown. Gary Barnidge did a good job, but Terrell Pryor had 9 targets, wasn't special, 5 for 46, but he did have that touchdown. Nothing to be worried about. Look, you're getting more from Pryor than you ever thought you would have, so we can't complain about that. Let's see what we can complain about. We can complain about the New York Jets. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, the magic is gone. I really do. I think the magic is gone. And the defensive magic, Darrelle Revis, is bad. It's a train wreck right now. Really. I mean, look at what Seattle did. And this is with an injured Russell Wilson. 23 for 32, 309 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jimmy Graham gets 113 yards. Doug Baldwin is barely used. Tanner McAvoy gets a bomb for a touchdown. Paul Richardson, they take him deep. I mean, Seattle was just throwing the ball down the field on the Jets. So, I mean, can you imagine what Ben Roethlisberger is going to do next week with Sammy Coates and Antonio Brown? It could get ugly. For the Jets, there was no Decker. Matt Forte was stopped, 14 for 27 and 2 for 16 on receiving. Bilal Powell's getting more action there, but Marshall was good with 12 targets, Anunwa with 7 targets. You can't ask for more than that. I think those guys played well, but I mean, the Jets are in big trouble right now this year, and I hate to see that because they played so well last year, but I don't like what I'm seeing with this team. I think this team is in a bit of trouble. The Buffalo Bills play the New England Patriots. Now look, the Patriots are 3-1. Tom Brady's coming back, and things are going to be good. All right? Let's just take a look at New England's schedule moving forward. New England's got Cleveland next week, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Buffalo. Load them up, baby. This is Tom Brady. Then he's got a bye week. Then it gets a little harder with Seattle and San Francisco, the Jets, the Rams, and the Ravens, and Denver and the Jets. I'm not going to say it's not hard, but I think we're going to get 4 really, really good weeks of Gronk and Edelman and Brady. And don't worry about it. The Patriots are already 3-1, so they win against the Cleveland 4-1, Cincinnati 5-1, Pittsburgh 6-1, Buffalo 7-1. Boom, they're 7-1. They only got to win 2 or 3 games out of those last 7, and they're good to go in the playoffs. They're good to go. LeGarrette Blount only had 54 yards, and Edelman did really nothing. But it's okay. It's not okay fantasy-wise, but it's okay as we move forward because we know they have good things ahead. And I think one of Belichick's things was by playing Brissett, you save Garoppolo. So God forbid something happens to Brady, you can go with Garoppolo beginning next week. You can't go with Jacoby Brissett. So you might as well play the guy and then put him into surgery and get another third quarterback. I mean, really, big deal. For Buffalo, Tyrod Taylor played very well, 27 for 39, 246 yards. This was a Tyrod Taylor day. I mean, LaShawn McCoy did a very good job, but Robert Woods and Charles Clay, Robert Woods, 89 yards, Clay, 5 receptions. That's as good as these guys can be. I mean, really, that's as good as these guys can be, so you can't complain at all. Carolina and Atlanta. Atlanta wins 48-33. So I got to give a lot of love to my friend Scott Atkins. We were on the Saturday morning show from 7 to 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, and Scott said his number 1 play of the day was Julio Jones Roto, and Scott could not have been more correct. 12 receptions, 300 yards, 1 touchdown. And, somebody had written somewhere and said, look, if you think Julio Jones is going to have a good day, then Matt Ryan's going to have a good day. Oh, yes, Matt Ryan had a good day. 28 for 37, 503 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, that is incredible stuff right there. 803 yards from 2 players. I mean, that's just going to help you in daily win $1 million. Devonta Freeman was still 13 carries for 57 yards and a touchdown, but he only had 2 receptions. This was just Ryan to Julio, Ryan to Julio, Ryan to Julio. That's what it was. I mean, really, that's how special that was. Derek Anderson comes in after Cam Newton takes what I thought was a cheap shot. I mean, Cam Newton's a big dude, and it seems like refs are just letting Cam get whacked. I mean, it's a 2-point conversion. The guy's just about to hit the line, and the Falcons guy comes in and annihilates him. Now, I'm not a Cam Newton guy, man, but that was a cheap shot. I'll say this, though. I'll say that Derek Anderson's a pretty good backup quarterback. And if Derek Anderson's going to start this week, I can live with that. I really can. I could live with that. I think he's a pretty good player. So I have some love for Derek Anderson. Fozzie Whitaker had 86 yards. Greg Olsen, 6 for 76 and a touchdown. Benjamin only had 7 targets, 3 for 39 and a touchdown. Not really good enough. Not for a number 1 receiver. He needs to get more involved with that than he is, and that's troubling to me. Really is troubling to me. Speaking of troubling, the Oakland Raiders play the Baltimore Ravens. And Derek Carr goes 25 for 35, 199 yards, but he has 4 touchdowns. All right, so I love the fact that he's thrown 35 times, but at 199 yards, you got to do better than that. You got to do better than that. I mean, this is the NFL. I need 250 yards a game minimum. So that surprised me there. Once again, the Oakland Raiders, DeAndre Washington, 5 carries. Latavius Murray, 8 carries. Jalen Richard, 2 carries. This is killing Latavius Murray owners. I mean, this is just stabbing them in the hearts. Jack Del Leather Jacket is killing. But Michael Crabtree doing a great job. 7 for 88, 3 touchdowns. And Amari Cooper, 5 for 48. Now look, here's what's happening. The number 1 cornerback is covering Amari Cooper, as well they should, and it's leaving Michael Crabtree, who really is a number 1 receiver, he's getting covered by the number 2 cornerback. The number 2 cornerback cannot cover Michael Crabtree. Now, here's what's going to happen. If the number 1 cornerback covers Crabtree, then Amari Cooper is going to go off. So this is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation here. Crabtree, Cooper. All right? Joe Flacco, 32 for 52, 298 yards and a touchdown. I thought it should have been better. Those numbers look good, but I don't think he played very well. I really don't. He missed a lot of easy throws. Steve Smith Sr., 8 for 111 and a touchdown, a 52-yard bomb. I called that one on my Friday night show from 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern. I said Steve Smith was going to catch a 50-yard bomb, and he did. Not enough Mike Wallace this week, not enough Dennis Pitta. Terrence West saved his job, 113 yards and a touchdown. Justin Forsett is absolutely going to get cut this week when Kenneth Dixon comes back. I feel pretty strongly about that. All right, Detroit and Chicago. I think this was the sucker game this week. I think a lot of people thought that Detroit was going to unload on the Bears. Sean Childs from Scout Fantasy called this game. He said that Chicago was going to win, and he was absolutely right. Matthew Stafford does not throw for a touchdown, 213 yards. Dwayne Washington gets injured very early on in the game. Marvin Jones is held to 74 yards receiving. I mean, the Lions just did nothing right. Jim Caldwell is not a very good coach. I'm telling you this right now. He was 2 inches from getting fired last year. Jim Bob Cooter saved his job. I don't think he's going to be able to save his job much longer. The Eagles and the Rams, they could easily lose to the Eagles. They could easily lose to the Rams. They're going to be 1-5, and you're going to see Jim Caldwell on the unemployment line. It's as simple as that. For Chicago, Brian Hoyer is absolutely one of the best backups in the league. And once again, I got to give credit for the Bears for adding him with Cutler, because Cutler's not special. And if they get rid of Cutler, at least you have Hoyer who knows the offense. I'm not saying you can win with Hoyer, but he won yesterday. 28 for 36, 302 yards and 2 touchdowns. And how about this kid, Jordan Howard, 23 for 111, 3 receptions for 21 yards. I told everybody for weeks to get Jordan Howard. What's not to like? This guy's a star. My only fault yesterday was I I had Kevin White everywhere, but he left with a hamstring injury, 6 for 55 on 9 targets. This guy's a very good player. I just hope he's not injured, because then you'd have White and Jeffrey both not at 100%, and that would be a shame for the Bears. All right, Denver and Tampa Bay. Jameis Winston is just the up and down guy in the NFL. Some weeks Jameis Winston is great, like next week he will be sensational against Carolina, and this week he was atrocious against Denver. But everybody's atrocious against Denver. Jameis Winston was 17 for 35, 179 yards, no touchdowns and 2 picks. But he had 5 carries for 19 yards and a touchdown. But they couldn't run the football. Charles Sims couldn't run the football. And Vincent Jackson is just a shell of himself. Mike Evans got 11 targets and Cameron Brate got 8. This is their offense right now. But there was no Adam Humphries. They needed to get him in the game. They play better when Adam Humphries does well. I don't know. It seemed like Brate was getting the targets instead of Humphries, and that was a problem for me. Trevor Siemian gets injured in the game. He leaves. Paxton Lynch comes in and does a pretty respectable job. I got to give him credit for that. I thought he threw some pretty good passes there. And as long as you have Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, good things are going to happen. These are 2 of the top receivers in the league, and they do a sensational job. So I think Denver is just where they need to be. And you know what? Simeon's good, but if Lynch is going to be as good, let's get him in the lineup and see what he can do, because Lynch is your future. All right, Los Angeles against the Cardinals. The Rams win another game, an ugly game. I don't know how Jeff Fisher does it. He didn't do it with Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley had 33 yards rushing. He did it with Lance Kendricks and Brian Quick and Kenny Britt. I mean, Tavon Austin also did nothing. So, I mean, the Rams just are playing good defense, and they didn't hurt themselves. So I don't think they're a good team by any stroke of the imagination, but they didn't suck. I mean, the Cardinals sucked worse, and Carson Palmer got injured. I mean, he took a big shot and a big concussion there. I mean, his eyes looked glazed. Looked like a Krispy Kreme donut. David Johnson, 83 yards rushing, 41 yards receiving. John Brown finally looking good, 10 receptions, 144 yards. I'm absolutely worried about Michael Floyd. This guy's a dog with fleas. And you got to get Larry Fitzgerald more involved. 5 catches is not enough for Larry Fitzgerald. I need Larry Fitzgerald with 10 catches and John Brown with 5. That's what I need to see. All right, New Orleans and San Diego. I honestly feel badly for San Diego. I do. They've had so many close games this year. And, dare I say, they could be 4-0. They were beating the Chiefs, they were beating the Colts, and they were beating the Saints. But they just can't win those close games. And I don't know whether that's Mike McCoy, whether that's the team. I can't answer that, but I feel badly for them because I think they're close. Phillip Rivers, 321 yards. I love this kid, Hunter Henry. So somebody asked a question yesterday on the air about Travis Benjamin. So I want to break this down for you. Keenan Allen Roto is the number 1 receiver on San Diego. Travis Benjamin was brought in to be the number 2, and Stevie Johnson was the number 3. Stevie Johnson goes out. So now, Allen and you could argue Benjamin maybe see tighter coverage. Next, Allen goes out. Now Benjamin's the number 1. So this guy goes from being a number 2 with Allen and Johnson and Gates around. You have no Gates because of the injury. You have no Johnson because of an injury. And now you've got no Allen because of an injury. So he moves to the number 1. When you move to the number 1 receiver, do you know who you see on the other side of you? The other team's best cornerback. So now he's playing against the other team's best cornerback. Travis Benjamin's a good receiver, but he's not a number 1 receiver. He's not a number 1. He's like a 2. That's what he is. He's a 2. He's a really good 2 on a good team. He's not a 1. And they're playing him at 1. So a lot of people have Travis Benjamin. They expect the world from him. But that's an unreasonable expectation. It's an unreasonable expectation. He's not a number 1 receiver. But Tyrell Williams and Dontrell Inman, these guys stepped up. And I think Inman's going to be a big pickup this week. If he hasn't been picked up already, he's going to go for a lot of money in Fab. I've got to believe that. For the Saints, Drew Brees, 207 yards and 2 touchdowns. You've got to be kidding me. Mark Ingram getting 24 touches. But Brandon Cooks and Willie Snead, these guys did nothing. I told you they were going to do nothing. I did. I told you they were going to do nothing. It's just a bad coverage game with Hayward and Verrett. It's not good. So moving forward, okay, Saints on bye. Then they have Carolina at home. Giddy up. At Kansas City, don't love the matchups. Home for Seattle should be okay because I think they're just quicker than that Seahawks secondary. Seahawks are big and physical. They're not fast, and I think the Saints can take advantage of that. At San Francisco, don't love it. Denver's a problem there, especially with Talib. At Carolina should be fine. LA should be fine. Detroit should be fine. Then they got at Tampa and at Arizona. I think Tampa twice, that should be fine. So there are going to be better days ahead. I promise you there'll be better days ahead for Cooks and Snead. They're going to have to be, because if they're not, this team is in huge trouble. All right, Dallas and San Francisco. Ezekiel Elliott, 138 yards and a touchdown. Whoever thought that this guy wasn't going to be a star when the year started, you guys are absolutely and unequivocally wrong. Wrong. Okay? Dak Prescott doing enough to win. And Terrence Williams scoring, Bryce Butler scoring, no Des Bryant, no problem, okay? For San Francisco, they literally have one player, Carlos Hyde, who scored a touchdown, 74 yards rushing. Jeremy Curley showed up, but I like this Garrett Selleck. I do. I think he's a very interesting player, especially without Vance McDonald there. I like what I saw last night from him. And finally, Pittsburgh against Kansas City. Ben Roethlisberger, 300 yards, 5 touchdowns. Le'Veon Bell, 144 yards rushing, 34 yards receiving. Do you think they missed him? Yeah, I think they missed him. How about playing the Eagles again with Le'Veon Bell? I know D'Angelo Williams is good. I get it. He's good. He's no Le'Veon Bell. Okay? Sammy Coates stepping up, 79 yards receiving and 6 receptions. I love seeing that. Antonio Brown didn't have to do anything after the first half. I mean, really, sit him down, do nothing. For Kansas City, Alex Smith had 287 yards. About 284 were in garbage time with 2 touchdowns. Spencer Ware did okay. I love watching this Tyreek Hill play. Man, this guy's a good player. He really is. He's a fun player to watch. And finally, tonight's game, the Giants against the Vikings. I think this is going to be a defensive struggle. Can Odell Beckham Jr. Roto make a play? Can Sterling Shepard Roto get open if Beckham is covered? What's going to happen with Diggs? I think this is a field goal defensive game, maybe a touchdown here or two. I think this is going to be like a 23-20 or a 20-17 game. I'll take the Vikings in this game, but I'll tell you this. The Giants play better on the road than at home. The Giants lose big games at home. They don't lose big games on the road. So it wouldn't shock me at all if Eli pulled off this win. It's all about Sam Bradford. How can Sam Bradford do? And who's going to be the receiver who dominates? Is it Beckham, Diggs, Rudolph, Shepard? Be a very interesting game to watch. I'm looking forward to it. All right, guys, time to put away the insurance cards, put away the copay. The office is closed, my friends. We'll be back tomorrow with another podcast. And, of course, if you missed any part of this, listen up later. Come on, listen to the whole thing. And if you want to be part of the Scout Army, go to scoutfantasy.com. Enter promo code ROTO. That's ROTO. You pay for 1 month. You get 2 more for free. It's as simple as that. We gave you the Bears. We gave you Brian Hoyer. We gave you Julio Jones Roto. We're giving you wins. That's how we roll. All right, guys. Be well. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Scout Fantasy Show. There's never been a better time to join the Scout Army. Visit scoutfantasy.com. Use the promo ROTO for 2 months free. And don't forget, fantasy players, please thumbs up the podcast on the iHeart app. See you next time. Go Scouts!